Hello, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings and welcome back to March is Women's Month. The last several stories have been extraordinarily dark, exhibiting the absolute worst in society of and the sad part is these aren't isolated incidents. These are all different women who are just being profiled because I came across their reports. These aren't, just in the last month or two. These are women now in real time. Yeah, they may have had this happen in August of 2024 or that action in 2022 or they began investigating in December 2023, but the results are being published for the most part in March of 2025. These are long going investigations or discoveries in real time. I think the oldest that I've got in here is February. And here's another one out of, I believe, Orlando, Florida, 21 March 2025. Woman drowns poodle in airport toilet and crams it in bin, as in a garbage bin, just so she can board her flight. Now, just in case you're in Orlando, Alison Agatha Lawrence could not take her dog on a flight. I don't know about you, but if I'm going to travel somewhere with a child, an animal, or even for that matter, a guest, another human being, I'm going to check with whatever facilitation, whether it's the event, the transportation, the lodging, all of the above, whatever. I'm going to verify that my plus one or whatever is allowed. In fact, just this morning, while I was doing my walk, I stopped at City Hall and made an inquiry about something, and I made a remark to the clerk that I'm of the mind it's better to ask, it's better to get ask for forgiveness than it is permission, but because you know I just wanted to make certain there weren't any statutes that were in place that would prevent performing certain things. Nothing debaucherous, you know, or along the lines of Tim Pool's proposed 28th Amendment thing. That being said, you know, uh, that's what an adult does. An adult takes the initiative to ask questions, even if they do it anonymously so they don't tip their hand. They still do that. I mean, the title, at least tentatively right now, is not even women's pets are safe. This last week, we've been detailing all these horrors that these mothers have inflicted upon children, and previously was teachers. I believe a good portion of the last week was about the teachers doing these abuses. This is insanity, and now we've got their pets aren't even safe. So they go on to do the, oh, she's alleged. I mean, come on, give us a break. You know dang well if it was a man, you would be, calling out everything in his background from the time he had a magnifying glass and accidentally caught a piece of paper on fire as being the first red flag to anything in between that moment to the present as being additional red flags. This woman is evil. She drowned her dog at an airport after being told she couldn't board a plane. I, if you're old enough, you've seen the old 70s television show MASH. And the final episode deals with Alan Alda's character, Hawkeye Pierce. They were traveling from one hospital to another or something, And the plot of the show was that before the DMZ was created, so the communist Koreans, which would become the North Koreans, were on patrol. They had to park the bus. Everybody had to be silent so they wouldn't be caught. And everybody kept dealing, with Hawkeye's. Um, how should I put it? His how he was processing an event that happened in order to keep from being found. And in his recounting, it was always addressed as him, or as someone snuffing a chicken. But when the revelation was made, it was the mother who had done that to their child who wouldn't stop crying. It made sense as to how come he couldn't reconcile it. But the only reason I go on this is women are very capable of extraordinarily acts of cruelty and abuse, and they're not restrained to doing it to just men. They're quite willing to do it to children, as documented in these previous videos. They're quite willing to do it to students, as previously covered, and they're quite willing to do it to their own pets, let alone animals that aren't in their control. And I don't know. What I bring that up about is the dismissive nature that everybody treated Hawkeye Pierce's character was very, in my opinion, very poorly done, because the fact that the rest of them were desensitized and could process it and move along says that war took away their humanity to such a degree that they could just shrug their shoulders and move on, when the entirety of the entire program was using the Korean War as a backdrop as a protest against the Vietnam atrocities. They lost all respect after that finale. Uh, anyway, I don't want to get lost in the weeds on it. Alison Agatha Lawrence, 57, of Clermont, Florida, reportedly at Orlando Airport when she was not allowed to get on a flight as she didn't have the paperwork for the dog. Over the last 15, 20 years, I've known people who've done this nonsense of the, oh, it's my emotional support animal. You know what? I have nothing against anybody who has a service animal, a emotional support animal. All the more power to you. But still, that does not protect you from having to do your own due diligence to verify and obtain the appropriate documentation, supporting documentation that you'll need to use these services. They're a private carrier. They have a right to refuse service. Um, I mean, it used to be $50 to change your ticket to go and make your adjustments. I mean, yeah, it's an inconvenience and it's an expense, but there's no way I'm going to end my pet over something as trivial as travel. I would just cancel the trip. But that's me. I digress. Let's see. This happened in December, but it's published here in March 21, as I said. Anyway, that goes on to say it's an act of extreme cruelty. And now that I'm caught up to the correct page turn, authorities have said she drowned the poodle in the toilet. I mean, and then put the animal, put the poodle in. This is a dog that trusted her. This is somebody whom thought of her as family, and then leaves it to the staff to discover her misdeed, and the police were dispatched as a result. And then she's arrested on aggravated cruelty charges at her home. So Orlando police did not say what kind of animal, but we've already covered that. They booked into Lake County Jail. I believe that's her profile picture that I have at the beginning of the video. $5,000 bail. Let's see. She was traveling with the dog, and the reason for her extreme actions. Her neighbors have said that she had a white poodle and would be seen walking locally with the dog. He said that neither the dog or Lawrence had been seen recently, with one local resident reportedly claiming someone that would do such things has got to be disturbed upstairs. Exactly. And that's the point that I was trying to make a bit with that MASH finale episode, is that everybody dismissed Hawkeye's character as being the one having an issue, when in reality it was all of them and the mother who should have been having the issue. But going back to this, the neighbor, Roy and Janet, reportedly said they watched as police arrived to make the arrest. I kept looking out, wondering what was going on. Well, now you know. You got pets that disappeared in the neighborhood. You might want to let them know that she might want to be asked about them. Then they left. Then they came back. He said he heard a commotion going on outside. That must have been when they arrested her. So it goes on. Uh, Lawrence's sister didn't know anything. So she's got neighbors whom were aware that she had a dog that she could have called on to say, "Hey, I got to go out of town." Not to mention just in my area, which is extraordinarily rural, there's a number of places that you can check dogs into. I don't know about cats, but dogs definitely have the ability to be, set up in a variety of boarding situations. And then she's got a sister too, whom she could have called on. Anyway, there's no excuse for this. So let's see. After hearing about the incident, State Senator Tom Leek recently filed an animal cruelty offense. This is yet another horrible example of why I filed the bill. Good. Related to animal cruelty, which strengthens criminal penalties for those who do harm to innocent animals. On one hand, that's good. On another hand, it's disappointing that A, we have to have legislation to have ethics and morality enforced, as well as for protections of something that should be considered, no duh. And C, I heard Tim Pool saying this in his videos repeatedly, and that is, if a society has to write it down in order for it to be enforced, that society has already failed. I'm paraphrasing, I may not have the quote correct, but that's stuck with me, and it's something that I keep bouncing around with. Anyway, let's go back here to Click Orlando. It is my commitment to have this good bill pass the Florida Senate and the Florida House of Reps and sent to DeSantis for his signature. And then it concludes that yes, animals can go as long as they're pre-screened and they're proper paperwork, and they've got the right carriers and such. I mean, we've if you haven't seen it, hop on X. You'll see these videos of, heck, there's a cat that's got a freaking window seat. How amusing is that? Speaking of which, one just ran outside to go take care of the sunset, make sure that the sun doesn't stay up any longer than necessary. But March is an extraordinary. March has always felt to me to be an extraordinarily long month because it comes on the heels of February, which is the shortest month of the year, whether it's a leap year or not. Going from 28 days to 31 days makes for a very, very long period of time. And I don't think people really thought this out when they decided to make March Women's Month, because there's no shortage of news reports of these atrocities of women having committed. Keep yourself safe. I get it. Nobody wants to have additional cameras, but as we're seeing with Teslas having their Sentry mode, being able to catch people doing, petty acts of vandalism and whatnot, keep yourself recorded so that you can protect yourself from false allegations or from any kind of abuse that these women are, perpetrating upon society.